What's the difference between this watch and this watch? If you said not a lot, you'd be right. If you said quite a bit actually, you'd be right. 20 years makes a difference in watch design, and if you were the Rolex GMT, you've gone through a skater phase, a goth phase, preppy phase, and even experimented a little bit in college, all in the last 2 decades. 2024 is turning the big 2-0 this year, so in that spirit, we are fast-forwarding through the methodical evolution of Rolex innovations from 2003 until now, with a special focus on the watch that debuted many of these features, the Rolex GMT-Master II. If you've ever heard terms like gloss dial, supercase, cerachrom, parachrom, and you weren't exactly sure what they meant, this video is for you. Let's start in the year 2003. Songs like Into Club, Seven Nation Army, and sadly, Stacy's Mom are on top of the charts. Also, you can just walk into a Rolex boutique and buy a watch. Now, at that time, Rolex was selling the reference 16710. It's the second generation of the GMT-Master II, and it had a long production run from 1989 to 2007. It used a slightly thinner case because it housed a slightly thinner movement than its predecessor with the then new caliber 3185. Buyers could choose from 3 aluminum bezel options: blue and red, black and red, and all black. Because this reference was produced for nearly 20 years, we see Rolex making a few improvements while keeping that same reference number. For example, the bracelet received solid inlays starting the year 2000, and the brand started eliminating the lug holes in 2003. The watch used tritium lume until 1997 before upgrading to Luminova in 1998 and 1999, and then switching to Super Luminova in the year 2000. So, important point, if you are a patina fan, this model is great because you have the aluminum bezels which fade beautifully over time, and that toasty tritium lume for examples before 1997. Now, the move to scratch-resistant and fade-resistant cerachrom bezels came in 2005 for the 50th anniversary of the GMT Master. That was on a full gold watch with an all-black bezel. In 2007, Rolex unveiled its first steel watch with a ceramic bezel in the 6-digit reference 116710. Now, this is before the Submariner, before the Sea Dweller, and before the Daytona received their ceramic bezels. So if you're looking for a GMT with a little bit of history, this is a good one to look. Side note, this model, called the Lunette Noir for its black bezel, remains one of the better deals for a steel GMT because it's often overlooked in favor of its bicolored brethren. The 16710 also featured the caliber 3186 with a parachrom hairspring, meaning it had greater resistance to shock and temperature changes. Also, Rolex transitioned from a green glowing supernova to the blue glowing chroma light during this time. So, quick recap. 1 generation later, we've got a new bezel, new movement, and new lume on the dial. For a few years, the all-black Lunette Noir was the only steel GMT Master available. That changed in 2013 with the introduction of the Batman with a blue and black bezel. Now, Rolex's patented process takes an all-blue bezel made of porous ceramic and adds a contrasting layer of black for the nighttime half of the bezel. The speculation among watch enthusiasts is that blue and black was the easiest combination for Rolex to debut this new bicolor ceramic bezel. Other color combinations, including the famed Pepsi bezel, would have to come later on. The good news, it's 1 year later in 2014 and the Pepsi is back. The bad news, it's only available in white gold. The last time we saw the famous blue and red color combo was on an aluminum bezel, which went out of production in 2007. Now it's back with this new reference at a significant price thanks to the precious metal case. It may look like steel, but that's the beauty of white gold. It's just a little secret between you and your bank account. 4 years later, the dial of this watch changed from black to blue with the new reference 126719 BLRO, which is still in production today. That year, 2018, brought a few major changes to the lineup. First, we had the revival and the reinterpretation of the root beer GMT. The vintage versions of this watch are super charming, and not to mention a great deal on the secondary market. Today, there are full rose gold and two-tone versions with the black and brown ceramic bezel. 2018 is also the year we get the return of the icon, the steel Pepsi GMT. The reference 126710 BLRO, that's its government name, we'll just call it the Pepsi, is still in production, and it wasn't just celebrated for its external appearance, but what's on the inside too. We're talking about the caliber 3285 with a power reserve of 70 hours instead of the previous 50, and that's thanks to the patented Chronenergy escapement. It's also more accurate and more resistant to shocks and temperature changes. The new Pepsi debuted on a Jubilee bracelet, with the Orsolot clasp that included micro-adjustment capabilities, which, if you've handled this watch or if you've ever worn a watch in the summer, you know how clutch this is. 1 year later, in 2019, we get the new Batman GMT, also with the new caliber 3285, and also on the Jubilee bracelet. You'll also see this sometimes referred to as the Batgirl. That's to differentiate it from the previous version on the Oyster bracelet. But now that Rolex offers its steel GMTs on either Oyster or Jubilee, you'll see people returning to the Batman verbiage or just using them interchangeably. For Watches and Wonders 2022, Rolex decided to get a little freaky and shock the watch world with the black and green GMT featuring the crown on the left. I have strong feelings about this watch, but we're going to keep it polite and say that it exists and you can buy it if you want to. But Rolex did redeem themselves in 2023 with the introduction of the full yellow gold black bezel GMT. I mean, this thing is killer. It's got to be such a good way to walk into a room. This brings us to the present day. Looking back, we see the brand's slow and steady approach to technical improvements, but all those changes do add up. In the last 20 years, we have, count it, 2 new movements with better components and better performance each time. We have 5 new bezels, including some in new colors. We have 2 bracelet styles available with a new micro adjustment system added in. We have 3 kinds of lume in 2 different colors. We have 4 metal options, and now we even have a left-handed version. For watch enthusiasts who pay close attention to the news, small steps like these often elicit "so what" reactions, but perhaps there's a lesson here. The boring path may not generate the most clickable headlines, but Rolex's brand image has solidified in the long term, and it frames these models themselves as canonical, even sacred. Dynasties do not thrive on turmoil, and for Rolex, the crown is stronger than ever. Let us know in the comments below not only what your favorite version of the GMT is, but if you like the slow and steady approach, or if you find it kind of boring. I'm Thomas Henschwitz with 2024 in New York City. We'll see you next time.